Check, check, check. Good morning. Here again. Let's do another real quick video. Got up extra early this morning and thinking through a lot of things. I don't do many videos, partly just because I don't have time. But also, I just kind of, on a lot of these videos, at least in the past, I ranted a lot, you know? It was more probably therapeutical for me than anything. And I just kind of don't want to get on unless you have something nice to say. Just kind of don't say it, right? So, anyway, I've been thinking with my son, it's been his summer break, which is ending now this next week. But just spending copious amounts with my boy. It's just him and I. And so whenever, like this whole entire summer break, I do my best to get him out. We get out a lot and play at a lot of parks and go swimming and fishing and just very active. It's like I tell, my gym membership lapsed a few weeks ago, and so I haven't been lifting as much as I normally like to. But it's like I can't tell you how many monkey bars I've been climbing, how many slides I've gone down, how many places to swim I've gone, how many wrestling sessions with my son I have. So I'm thankfully staying very active. It's just not in the mode that I normally prefer. So there's been times where I've been absolutely exhausted because I've just been playing with my son and the friends we meet along the way or whatever. And it's been really good, actually. And I just feel very blessed that I get to do that because I realize like not a lot of dads get to do that. So, and I know that will diminish or cease to the degree that it's been before too long, just as I kind of progress in my own setup. But for the time being, I love being a present father. It's fantastic. Starting this next week, I get to drop him off and pick him up from school, make his lunches. If he has any problems at school, like last year, like talking through the whole, like if there's bullying situations or, did we get the right back to school gear or whatever that he needs, just stuff like that. It's a ton of fun. It's a real joy. It's an absolute blessing to be able to be involved like that. As a very present father at least on my end. And I will keep it this way as long as I can. My son has never had a babysitter. In the 2 years of having custody as I do, it's been almost 2 years now. He's never had a babysitter, not once. And I'd like to keep it that way as long as I can. I don't understand why people want to have somebody else raise their kids in daycare. I don't understand that. I get sometimes you have to, or, life kind of puts us in these situations. I know I certainly grew up that way with babysitters and daycare and stuff like that. But as long as I can avoid it, I will. You get it. I just don't get it. But something that has been coming up a lot lately that I find very interesting is story time, storytelling with my son. And I realize that it's how he's trying to understand and figure out the world. I think we all did this. I think humanity for time immemorial have been hearing stories from their parents or their elders, their tribes, whatever it is. And this is how we frame life. This is how we frame our world. This is how we frame who we are, and we figure things out. Sorry, I'm a little stuffy. And one that I have noticed, so every night before bed, he usually asks me for 2 stories. One when the lights are on, and one when the lights are off. We have kind of a bedtime routine. I'm sure if you're a parent, you all do. But we usually have like one story when the light's on, one story when the light's off, and then we have our prayer time. Or we'll read a book, and then we'll have our prayer time and go to bed. And so I'm having to come up with a lot of stories on the fly. And the stories that I find coming out of me that just bubble up, that come out when he's asking for them, are what you would think. They are kind of what you think. There's a hero, and this hero has friends. He has a community or a tribe with him, probably akin to, well, sometimes we even use like the Marvel characters, and then there's a cameo, the special guest appearance. Spider-Man shows up in this story, and oftentimes it's he and I, um, and sometimes I'll be the hero of the story or he'll be the hero of the story. And again, I'm just making this up as I go. Or Spider-Man will be the kind of the archetype, the hero in this one, and then his friends Hulk will join, and Daddy and Abraham will join in our, in the battle. And the bad guys that we now have a consistent thread of showing up in our stories are fun. They're funny. They're pretty comical, but nevertheless, and they're always posing a different threat of some kind. Usually pretty goofy stuff, right? Nothing too serious, but there is something so important about story time with their children. And I'm imagining it's different for little girls than it is for little boys. The ideas or concepts that the girls are grasping or reaching for, that's innate to them, are different, hopefully, than little boys are. Though perhaps at this young age, I can go on and on about this, and that'll be a video for a different time. But he's I don't know what age, 6, 7, 8 now, where my son's starting to become more aware that it's not androgynous. It's not androgynous. He's a little boy. And these are the things that little boys understand. These are the concepts that they are grasping for, reaching for, that is innate to them. And so, and as a man, it's not and a man with a vivid imagination, it's not hard for me to reach for concepts and ideas that are shaping and forming for boys. That's not a far stretch for me. But something that is interesting is he's really grasped onto the concepts of a Godzilla. I introduced him to one of the Godzilla movies for some reason. Maybe I was just telling him about when I was little, we had this story, Godzilla, because I never really got into the horror stories or anything like that as a kid. But as a young man, there's certain ones that you really enjoy, that you still really enjoy. Like it's the Ninja Turtles. I'm an 80s baby, right? 1980 was when I was born. I'm just cut the tail end of that Gen Xer thing. And so it's like the Ninja Turtles, which are still around. You still see their t-shirts and stuff like that, which is really fun. But those stories for me were important at a time and for a purpose and for a reason growing up. They help you kind of grasp, especially as a little boy, you want to be a ninja, man. You want to be active. You want to be kicking butt. And those stories were important at the time. And it's interesting, the age as you develop, the things that you gravitate towards. Like when you're a little kid, Ninja Turtles for me was really cool. But then also they had like their teacher, their master, their father, their sensei, Master Splinter, right? And Master Splinter was always teaching them wisdom. And if you remember, I must have been in kindergarten or first grade when the first like full film live, the film came out. And there was just the wisdom in it and the emotion of it. If you remember the first original movie, like Raphael was dealing with anger, and it's like little boys deal with anger, man. They don't know how to harness or cage anger or frustrations, and so like that was a good story to tell for little boys. Was this Ninja Turtle story, particularly like with this character who, they all kind of deal respectively with their own issues. And you can kind of find yourself in the issues of the Ninja Turtles were having and how they developed, right? And then I remember like Lord of the Rings came out in film when I was probably about 18, 19, and I was really just starting this journey of following Jesus and kind of thrust into leadership. Excuse me. At a fairly young age in Christendom, excuse me. And So the wisdom that was pulled from the movies and the books, for myself, were important for that time, right? And you kind of listen to these stories. We all do. We listen to these stories or we watch these stories. They find us where we're at in our age groups and in what we're dealing with. And we pull from them. We pull meaning from them. I think we continually pull meaning throughout our lives from story. And they help us with our own direction, whether it's in books or on film. Um, and they become very important to us. And the story of Godzilla comes after Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and so it was a way to deal with, a cope, and wrap your heads around this massive monster that can destroy cities and level everything, right? And this comes out of the collective psyche of a culture and initially it's a Japanese film, and so it captures the minds and imaginations of a people of a time. My son and he wanted to watch all these Godzilla movies after he saw his first one of the newer ones. I got him one of the old ones, black and white Godzillas, and then another one, Godzilla versus Kong, the original. And it was so horrible. It was like men in suits, and it was, everything looked very fake, right? Well, he loved the old ones. There was no CGI. It was just people in suits, and I'm looking at it as an adult, like, this is horrible. Like, but he loved it, and he loved the story, and he understood it. And so, it's interesting how much meaning, or how he's finding himself in listening to stories that I tell, or the things that I'm introducing him to. I watched John Wick 4. You gotta watch it. If you haven't watched all the John Wick shows, watch the last one, John Wick 4, that just came out. The story in that was very powerful. Very powerful. And in fact, I gotta do a video on John Wick 4. Because, all the cool shooting and the martial arts and stuff like that. I'm a guy, I love that stuff, But honestly, the story in there was unbelievable, and it was very fitting. And I talked a little bit about how my coach passed away, my Krav Maga coach. And there's a point in that movie towards the end, where he has a ascension in a very real way. And this was great storytelling. An ascension, and then he gets knocked down. Right? He works very hard to get to this place without giving it away, but it's fantastic storytelling. And he literally ascends these flights of stairs through a fight scene, or through a battle, and he has to be to a certain place by a certain time. And if he doesn't get there, his life is forfeit. And he gets knocked down of this major flight of stairs. The storytelling was so good on this, and I allowed my son to watch that. And it was fitting that, according to my coach's wife, that was the last movie he watched right before he died. And literally, he watched it, and then he died not too long after that. If that's not sharing too much, I apologize. But no disrespect. But that seemed to be my coach. He was ascending. Things were happening. Things were going, and it's all of us, right? And that's what makes that story so great. And then you get kicked down. It's the 2 steps forward, 3 steps back type of thing. And then you get up anyway and you go again. And I let my son watch that, because it's like, this is what men do, son. This is what men do. This is what we have to deal with. And you're going to have these ascensions, and then you're just going to get absolutely floored. And then this guy's friend comes along and helps him to his feet. Let's go again. And it's like, yeah, man, that's exactly it. You surround yourself with great people that are going to pick you up when you have this massive fall, and you go again, and you go again, and you go again, and you do not stop. You go until you finish, until you win. Not till you feel like you're done, until you're done. Whatever. These great stories. And I've actually got to go to work, so I can't continue on this. But what are the stories we're paying attention to? The narrative in our culture right now. Oh my God, run like your hair is on fire and get away from this stuff, right? And watch yourself with the stories you tell your children. Not even so much with your words, though that is important, but with your life. What's the story you're telling your kids? And also, what is the story that you want to live? I mean, that's a real question and something that I'm posing to myself a lot right now. What's my story? How's this going to end? I'm on the latter half of my life right at this point. I'm on the back half. I'm on the back 40 of my life. What do I do with the rest of this? I've had an absolutely phenomenal first part of my life that I wouldn't trade for anything. It's been unbelievable. I've got to meet the best people on the planet. I've rubbed shoulders with the most amazing human beings that there are, cross-culturally in other places as well. And I had this middle period has been really difficult and just has not gone how I would have liked to at all, and very unexpectedly. And this is part of the story that I'm telling. Man, you get your ass kicked, you lose the love of your life, you get your life wrecked in divorce or whatever. It's just par for the course, man. And this is why the gospel is so beautiful. This is why the kingdom of God is so wonderful. This is why the scriptures are so perfect and holy. Is this narrative, this meta narrative, this story is amazing, and it's like, okay, this is part of the redemption story, isn't it? Everything crumbles, everything falls down. The death of story happens. The death of your story happens. The death of dreams. All these things, right? But then the part of it, what's the resurrection part of this? What's the resurrection part of this? And how do we lean into that? And what's more is, God is always resurrection. Always resurrection. He assists you in the deaths. He comforts you, like it says in the scriptures, the comfort of the Holy Spirit. And that's the thing. And he assists you in the deaths because they happen. And he comforts you in the deaths and the downs and the downhill trajectories and getting knocked off the staircase, as it were. It's like, how do you ascend again? This is what God does, right? And this is the story I wanted to share with my, I want to experience, and I am experiencing, even as the chief of sinners. But it's like, how do I show my son this? What stories am I telling? What stories am I telling with my life and with my mouth to my son to demonstrate that there's a resurrection in all of this, right? And this is why we love the stories of the underdogs that end up overcoming and doing great things, the rags to riches stories, right? These are wonderful. And I don't know, just pay attention to that. How's the story going? And your part in it, how are you doing on your end with telling another story, a better story, and ascending the hill, as it were, to be a blessing to the world around you? What's going on, y'all? I hope everybody's doing well. I have to go. Have a great day. God bless.